Hi Nick, how are you today?
Pretty well. I'm pretty excited. I didn't expect that I would be able to be here with you guys doing this Hill of Grace release. So that's very exciting. It's the most fun thing I've done for a while.
That's good to hear. We're not exactly in the same room. We're keeping our social distancing. But, in this COVID-19 world, things have changed. But it's exciting for us as well to be able to release Hill of Grace and do a tasting,
a virtual
tasting together with you.
Yeah, it's great, and honestly, I'm thrilled that that we're able to make this happen, and particularly because the 2015 vintage is highly anticipated for this wine for Hill of Grace. So. Should we kick off? Do you want to, should we talk a little bit about the 2015 vintage for you guys?
Yes, let's do that. So the 2015 vintage was really almost a perfect, what we would call a perfect season. So we had really beautiful winter rainfall, we had a mild spring, we had quite good set, sort of average a good set. Summer was relatively mild as well. We had some little heat spikes, but generally it was a mild summer, a nice mild ripening period in autumn. And if anything, it was almost that Goldilocks season where everything was just right. And we were very happy with the colours, the flavours, the aromatics, the structure, the texture. And you could just say it was almost a perfect year. And to have a wine like the 2015 Hill of Grace from that season, we were very excited about when we made it. And now 5 years later, when we're releasing it, we're just as excited, if perhaps not more so. It's beautiful.
All right. Well, look, I've got a bottle here. So I see you've got yours poured already.
Yes.
I'm going to go ahead and open this. So just taking, so this is one of those glass stoppers, so just so that everyone can see that, the Vino lock. So take the little metal cap off and then just, it slips right out like that. So the little silicone stopper that everyone can see there. So there it is, Hill of Grace 2015. I can't even believe I'm holding onto this bottle. So in a season like that, this is, I guess, one of the last things you have to do in the winery is to harvest Hill of Grace.
Just
about. Hill of Grace, interestingly, we what's the seasons based on the Hill of Grace picking time, don't we?
Yeah, it's always tuned into Easter, although this one was picked before Easter.
And about a week before the full moon, the harvest moon of Easter.
And so Easter, of course, is attuned to the lunar calendar itself.
Right.
So I guess that's, you sort of, I mean, you can, I guess going into a vintage, you sort of have an idea of when you might be harvesting it or when you might be able to harvest. And what is it about a vintage like 2015 that delivers, an exceptional result in terms of the quality of the wine?
I guess it's because it's an unstressful season. So you get that beautiful ripening period where you don't get any stress on the vine and it just builds up in flavour. And I think the tannins ripen up at the same time. And that's a good indication of good quality.
And Hill of Grace, just for people that may not know, it's actually what we're looking at here is a single plot with a number of different parcels. So we've got sort of it's like almost a winemaker's mosaic puzzle to put together for you guys each year.
Yeah, I guess 3 or 4 different soil types in this tiny little area. And I think that gives us that span. So you start off picking one block, then you move gradually down into the grandfathers on the heavier soil. So it gives you, a week to week and a half picking range. Yeah, so it's quite interesting. the influence of the soil on the ripening pattern.
So those sort of changes from the sandy loam over clay soils into the more deeper silts changes the ripening. So up on the shallower soils, we tend to have smaller berries and more intensity of flavour, and perhaps a little bit more black pepper as well, and a little bit more sage spice. But as you go down into the deeper soils where the grandfather's vines and post office one vines are, the oldest vines in Vineyard, they're the ones that seem to show this lovely fragrance of fire spice, that exotic aroma we describe as a fire spice sort of aroma. And it's just something that gives Hill of Grace its real sense of place, that really beautiful, exotic, fragrant, spicy character.
All right, well, let's have a taste. And it's interesting with all those parcels, because one of the things I think that always sets Hill of Grace apart is this layering and this sort of this depth, this complexity, everything, you know, always very seamlessly integrated. But it's a wine that has many, many, many layers in terms of the way it smells, the way it tastes, and also the sort of the tannin structure. So let's have a taste. I mean, spice is really the first thing that leaps out. And then, as you say, those sage-like herbs, those characters seem pretty strong in this 2015 vintage.
It's very distinctive. It's very fragrant. And to think it's 5 years old and it still looks quite youthful in its expression of fruits and spices.
Okay. Whoa. On the palate, I've just taken a mouthful of that. It's got phenomenal length. That's the first thing. My mouth is watering. You can hear me almost trying to talk through it. The tannin structure in this wine is something that I'm trying to think. I don't know that I've seen a young Hill of Grace with quite this level of tannin structure. It's formidable.
It's good coming from the 12, 13, 14, where you see a very different tannin structure up to the 15. And yeah, it's just beautiful in the mouth.
And I think it's
quite structured.
Yeah, it's the maturity of the tannins. So they taste mature. They're very textural. They're very velvety. But there's a lot of them there.
They're very fine. It's a wine that has there's fineness, there's precision, but there's power within all of that as well. And it builds, you know, in a very sort of seamless way through the palate, you know, and it keeps building. It keeps like growing out and growing up, and it just keeps growing in size and really sort of then explodes out of the finish. In a way that, it tastes incredibly youthful, as you say, for a wine of 5 years of age. It's a real baby of a wine, but a wine of real presence.
Yeah. I think, you know, it's probably one of those vintages that comes along maybe once a decade or so, where all the pieces fit into place, and you end up with a really beautiful expression of that Vineyard side.
Even just in the glass, it's starting, and I'm seeing pepper, of course I'm seeing blackberry, and I'm seeing some sort of plum characters. It's starting to reveal itself. It's a wine, you know, like as we just opened it here now to taste and to get that initial impression and to hear the vintage. It's a wine that certainly I'm going to go away now and put this into a decanter and sit and study and just really, really get to know, because it feels like there is just so much packed into this one bottle of wine. The wine has a lot to say. Have you looked at some bottles, you know, over a few hours?
We have. Usually when we're tasting, we'll take a bottle home for dinner, and we'll have a look at it for dinner, you know, that night. and we'll keep it in the fridge and open it up again the next day and just keep following it through over 3 or 4 days and watching the pages open and reveal themselves as the wine's developing.
It's amazing how long it lasts. It's incredible.
I can only imagine. Well, look, I'm looking forward to doing that. What have you think? I mean, in terms of when people should think about drinking the Hill of Grace 2015, we're now in 2020. What's your sort of suggested time that people should start thinking about opening a bottle?
Generally, when I tend to think when the wines are maybe 10 years old, so in another 5 years' time. But I can understand why people would be hesitant to wait that long.
It's such a beautiful balance and structure.
And it looks so balanced now. I mean, it does look youthful, but it's so approachable.
Yes.
I think you want to buy a dozen and you want to open a bottle every year or 2 years and just follow it through, as we used to do in the old days.
It's certainly a collector's wine. It's a wine that you do want to put in the cellar and have the opportunity to look at, from a number of different points in its evolution. So, I'm looking forward to doing that over the next couple of hours, maybe, for the rest of the day and maybe even tomorrow. And I like this wine so much I kept the bottle. This is the Hill of Roses 2015. I just wanted to talk about, because I didn't get the chance to speak to you guys about this wine yet. So, Prue and Stephen, do you want to maybe just explain for us what this wine is?
Yeah. Well, in this little block, it was planted in 1989, and it was a selection of the grandfathers. Uncle Lou and I did this selection. And we couldn't wait to actually go through the big sort of selection process. So we planted it in 89, and it was always the young version, and hence it got, Hill of Roses. So it was never put in the major blend, and we had to wait and wait and wait. We're still waiting to put it in the blend. But I think you can see now that it's about 25 years old, 26, that it's starting to build up that lovely five spice character. So it came from that red berry, young Shiraz fruit, and it's sort of gradually built up this beautiful evolution of more mature aromas and flavours. So it's
by the time the vines were 10 years old, then you could see that it had potential, and it was too good not to bottle it as a separate wine. So rather than blending it away, we kept it separate, and that's how it became Hill of Roses, and named after the Rosensweig family who ran the post office across the road. So that was the sort of origin of the name. But it has been amazing, because we've been watching these vines get older and older, and basically tick towards midnight when they become potential Hill of Grace material.
Well, it's interesting because I tasted this wine it's a couple of months ago now, but it's a wine that I think you can see all of the DNA of the vineyard there, and a very seductive iteration of the 2015 vintage in that vineyard. Very silky, like just such a beautiful wine. And for me, it has the DNA. And then I guess I look to Hill of Grace as perhaps has greater dimension than, and that's the sort of the difference. It is really it's like a prodigy, it's like the offspring of this wine here. So it's I just wanted to put these wines together and be able to reference the 2015 vintage of both, and maybe just touch on those differences, because we've got there are two fantastic wines here. That one, as you can see, is empty. So I did the exercise with this one, but this Hill of Grace 2015, I'm very much looking forward to going back and following through an evolution in glass and seeing how it evolves. So congratulations, it's a fantastic wine. I hope you enjoyed the vintage and the experience, and I'm sure people are going to love the ability to taste it. So thank you very much, guys.
It's a pleasure. And we decided to name this vintage, so we named it basically Grace by the Luminous Moon because of that strong association of the lunar cycle and Hill of Grace picking. So,
yep.
Yes, cheers.
Yes, cheers.
Thank you, Nick.
The Innis Pinot Gris. Do you guys want to tell me a bit about the parcel and the 18 vintage for this wine?
Innis Pinot Gris is off a vineyard in the Adelaide Hills. So we planted it way back in '95. One of the first Pinot Gris vineyards in the country, actually. And I guess it was really following our interest in Pinot Gris from Germany, where it's called Ruland. We loved it. We just adored the variety, and it was great to have an opportunity to actually play around with the grapes and make some wine. So it's been incredible.
So
and the Adelaide Hills, the Adelaide Hills is, I guess, proven that it is. I mean, it's a very diverse region, but it certainly has the potential to make great examples of Pinot Gris. I guess you can get the right brand or the right style of ripening into the grapes to deliver this sort of style that has freshness as well as kind of some richness and some flesh and juiciness.
Absolutely right. I think
fleshiness is really important.
I think that site in Littlehampton, facing more or less east northeast, is just a really beautiful site. It gives time for fruit to build up really lovely flavours. It's quite an interesting fruit because the bunches are pine cone shaped and they're bronzy coloured berries, and the skin in the Pinot Gris just has so much amazing flavour, almost a little hint of some of the Gewürztraminer sort of flavours as well, but a lot of stone fruit, and you see that in the wine.
Yeah, especially on the palate.
This has beautiful fragrance as well, but the thing that's striking is that juiciness on the palate. So the 2018 seems to be a wine that just has this very lively, fleshy sort of style of palate, really totally mouth-filling, and then still there's a lovely stream of acidity through the finish, but highly drinkable.
Yeah.
Yes, those stone fruit flavours come over really well with nectarines and.
Yeah, almost like some white peach sort of flavours I'm getting in there.
Yeah, and that's the value of that variety.
I'm loving that. All right.
It's a nice texture. The little bit more ripeness, as you say, gives really nice texture.
Sure.
And it's surprisingly good aging ability.
Yes, it does age well.
So the wine looks great after 5 to 10 years in the bottle.
I guess Pinot Gris is also one of the beautiful wines that we call Süffig in German. Yeah, it's a great wine to just casually drink.
Now we're going to taste. This is a special little wine. Very special, very small production. This is the 2015 Hill of Peace Semillon, which is in fact it lives in the spare room at Hill of Grace or something? How would we describe that?
It's sort of tucked in one corner.
So
there's tiny little vines of Semillon that have been there since the early 50s. Yeah.
So my uncle planted 13 rows of Semillon, and it was an old selection, I guess, of Semillon in those days, back in the early 50s. And it's the closest block to the cemetery by the church. So when we looked for a name, we just felt Hill of Peace made the most sense in terms of the expression of it. And this wine we wanted to make it as an aging or an aged release wine. So it gives the Semillon a chance to show that beautiful clover blossom characters of young Semillon in Eden Valley, but some bottle age as well.
The palate structure is beautiful, isn't it?
And the portion does go in the barrel, so we get a little bit of that barrel age complexity as well.
And so this is a plot that was planted in 1952, but the first time we saw it appear was 2012. Am I correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
and a wine that perhaps won't. It's not a wine that can appear every vintage. It's sort of in a year where everything allows it to happen from now on. Will sort of so this wine will come and go.
This wine will come and go.
Yeah, it's certainly dependent on set. So sometimes we just don't get the yield.
So seasons like this year, for example, there's no fruit.
Nothing.
So it's when you have the fruit, enough fruit to make from just those short 13 rows, enough to say a barrel of this wine, then we will make it.
Great. Well, 2015, it looks like the vintage certainly delivered. It's a flavoursome Semillon with, as you said that clover blossom. So that those lovely sort of floral or dried flower sort of characters on the nose, but then on the palate there is a real mouthful of fruit as well. Lovely fleshiness that really sits into the side of the palate. So 2015, it's 5 years old on release, and I would say is a wine that will be very, very interesting to see how it ages over the next certainly 5 or more years.
And the same 15 vintage as the 15 new release 15 Hill of Grace. So it's that, if you like, the perfect season in terms of the winter, spring, summer, autumn arrangement, relatively good yields, and just a perfect ripening. So the wine is quite textural. It has that classic sort of Granny Smith apple crunchiness that we get in our Semillon and Eden Valley.
Beautiful. All right, let's move on. So we've got the Giles Pinot Noir from the Adelaide Hills, 2018. Nice Pinot glass. Let's tell us about 18 for this Giles Pinot, because I've seen very fragrant Pinots come from the Adelaide Hills in this vintage.
Yes, I think 18 was a warmer vintage for Eden Valley, but that suited the Adelaide Hills just fine. So we've got this beautiful expression of Pinot Noir. It's just gorgeous vintage. It's actually it started off as a wet winter and a mild spring. Summer was quite hot and dry initially, but then there was a bit of rain at the end of summer and a mild autumn. And there was just that opportunity for the fruit to build really lovely flavour and texture. This is one of the most, I think, distinctive Pinot Noirs we've made from our lens with Vineyard. Just tasting this wine, there is so much fragrance in the glass, some beautiful strawberries and red cherries, incredible freshness of fruit, and then some lovely sort of red floral perfumes. And then on the palate, there's a lot more structure, isn't there? Firmer tannins.
Really like mouth-filling, mouth-watering presence on the palate, like an explosion of flavour. And then Prue, as you say, the tannins just sort of come and kind of cradle the wine on the finish. It's a very fresh, very intense expression of Adelaide Hills Pinot. I like the 18s from the Hills. Let's go on to the next wine now.
Okay.
Pop that one down there. So next we've got the Henry 7. Let's do them side by side, you guys. Let's do Henry 7 and Johann's.
Yes.
Great. All right. I'm just going to pour them. So would you tell us firstly about Henry 7? It's the 2018.
Well, Henry 7 is based on my young Shiraz Vineyard. So I guess in the early 2000s we started to plant a lot more Shiraz vineyards in both Eden Valley and next door to Hill of Grace. So this is actually co-fermented with Viognier to give that richness in the palate, and then ferments it with a bit of Mataro.
Grenache.
Yeah. So it's sort of young Shiraz with a nice...
Really, I guess, bolstered by co-fermentation with ripe Viognier to build the tannin structure.
Oh, it's so perfumed. I'm just having a smell of it right now. It just like leaps out of the glass with so much sort of spicy fragrance. There's that little meatiness you get when Viognier and Syrah kind of are seen together. That that beautiful fresh charcuterie. Wow, that's just an incredible wine to smell. And I'm putting it. I know it's Shiraz, but I'm putting it in a big sort of bowl of a glass that sometimes I'd use for Pinot, but I know this wine is always so fragrant, so I'm trying to get as much from it as I can.
It's a real fun wine. It's just so much upfront pleasure in the Henry VII wine. People do it.
And it's very smartly dressed on the palate. The tannins are, everything's tailored, buttoned, tucked in. It's just got this beautiful precision and sort of tidiness on the palate, delivering such beautiful, fresh. I get sort of raspberries and red plums, and then sort of probably that red plum sort of spectrum of flavour.
Definitely from the young Shiraz.
I think that 18 season gave a really lovely purity to the wine, and really lovely vibrance of fruit, spice, but really focused, and beautiful length and lovely tannins.
So that's the Henry 718. Now we've got the Johann's Garden. There we go, 2017. So talk us through this wine.
Right, so Johann's Garden really started its life as a forlorn Grenache vineyard that belonged to my uncle, and it was sort of a rescue operation really. And I said, when I saw the vines, I couldn't believe them. They were just like driftwood on the beach with a few leaves and a few bunches of grapes. And so that's really built from there, where we had an opportunity to get some more Grenache. And what's interesting about where it grows, it's in the sort of Penrice Lights Pass area. It's on a red lime with a limestone interspersed in it. So it brings out amazing perfume and spice as well in this wine.
A lovely perfume drive. So this is a blend. So we've got, I'm looking at the numbers here, around 3/4 Grenache, 18% Mataro, and 6% Shiraz is the blend of this wine. So it's really an expression of Grenache, isn't it? With a little little nuances of the other varieties. But for me, that really, it speaks of Grenache. That I love that the lovely flowers that I'm smelling on the nose. There's quite a floral sort of expression to it, and then the palate has this lovely sort of I guess gentle structure, but with deep flavour is sort of the way I describe the palate. And it delves into sort of some quite darker sort of berry fruits I'm getting on the palate here.
We get really beautiful structure from this vineyard, or the two vineyards. And I guess it's that more complex Grenache than the lollipop version.
Yeah.
We get a lovely character.
We love that vibrant sort of raspberry fruit that Grenache gets. And we found early on that Mataro, a small proportion of Mataro it's almost like a jigsaw puzzle. It fits together so beautifully with that spice of mace, nutmeg and chunky tannins. Just seems to fit like a glove with Grenache. And it forms this really lovely textural complex wine.
It must be a fantastic. I mean, I think blending is such a great part of winemaking. Everyone always talks about what happens in the vineyard and how we did this and did that in the winery and whatnot, or and so on. But I always think like the art then of sort of being able to put together a blend and to be able, it is the artistic sort of side of the process. So that is beautiful. So we've got those two wines. They're two very drinkable wines that I think, so the Henry VII and the Johann's, both very drinkable now, but also with, I think, the potential to do some nice things, in 5, 8, 10 years and maybe more. So let's move on now to the next couple. Well, we've got Marble Angel 2015.
Yes.
So let's have a taste. And this is in one of those nice Vino lock closures. All right, so tell us a little bit about the Marble Angel Cabernet.
So this was planted at least 50 years ago on the same sort of soil that the Grenache comes from. And it's a red lime and limestone combination. I guess the connection for us was that this was where my great uncle Giles, who was a famous sculptor, he used Angus marble, and that quarry literally is up behind the vineyard.
Yep.
So this is the fruit literally almost from the quarry. And it just seemed the perfect name to call it Marble Angel, because he sculpted all these beautiful angels, including the woman Noir of North Terrace and
Okay. It's good. I've got to say, like it speaks strikingly of Cabernet, and I guess, you know, people so often focus on Shiraz with the Barossa, and Cabernet, I think when the right vintage comes along for Cabernet, it does extraordinary things in the Barossa Valley. And I've got to say 2015 looks like one of those. That's a very, very obviously Cabernet wine that has very beautifully complete tannin structure, some suppleness and some juiciness. So congratulations. The 2015 vintage seems to have done great things for Cabernet.
Yeah.
It's quite perfumed with the cassis fruits, lilac and all those. There's a whole lovely combination of flowers and fruits that make up that, but also a nice texture from 15. So,
all right, Marble Angel. So let's taste. Should we do Cyril next?
So the Cyril Henschke Cabernet.
Cyril, okay, great.
Yeah,
Right.
this is actually an interesting comparison because you're comparing then Barossa Valley and floor with the Eden Valley. So the Cyril Henschke block is, I guess, a purposely planted vineyard for this wine, about 200 metres higher in altitude than the Marble Angel vineyard, and it's on more or less a sandy loam.
Yeah, acidic sandy loam, so really contrasting soil type.
And instead of facing west as the Marble Angel vineyard this faces north. So it's on a gentle north-facing slope. The rows run east-west, so the sun goes overhead.
Okay.
There are rows of Cabernet Franc, and rows of Merlot, and those three varieties make up this particular wine.
But very dominantly, Cabernet Sauvignon.
And tell us about the 2016 vintage then in this vineyard. What, where did we, where did we end up in terms of the sort of style of the vintage and how that's shaped the style of the wine?
Yeah, that's interesting because I think in 16, as we went through the season and we were tasting the fruit, and in the end, the wine was effectively 100% Cabernet. The
quality of the Cabernet was just, I mean, and Cabernet is such a great grape. The way that, you know, when it really turns it on, it's just something that you just sit back and admire. And it sounds like in 2016, that was your experience with the Cyril Henschke vineyard. The Cabernet just was so good.
It's really interesting because the three varieties tend to play their strengths depending on the season. And so in a cooler season, you're relying more on the Merlot, possibly Cabernet Franc.
Oh, you never allowed Cabernet.
But in this case, the Cabernet Sauvignon was so strong that as we put over the tasting bench, every blend we made up over weeks to make this final blend, we just found that the Cabernet on its own effectively was just so beautiful that we didn't want to spoil it with the other components. So
I've got to say, tasting it right now, like there's an elegance and a purity to this 2016 Cyril that is striking. It's it's pitch perfect ripeness. The tannins are very focused. It carries a lot of freshness on the palate as well. And that's when I taste in Bordeaux, these are all the things that you'll see in a great vintage in Cabernet in somewhere like Bordeaux, Italy. So that one looks fantastic. And I've got to say, to then sort of compare it to the Marble Hill being sort of Eden Valley, Cyril, Marble Hill in Barossa, you sort of see that different sort of expression of Cabernet. And, I'm sure in some years it bends in either direction. But that elegance of that Cyril with the power, I mean, that's the hallmark of great red wine, really. You know, often if you line up a list of great red wines from anywhere, you know, power and elegance will sort of be things that you want to see in the same glass. And that 2016 Cyril certainly has those. And I think a long living wine that will have a great cellaring life. Let's taste the Tappa Pass now. So 2017 Tappa Pass Shiraz.
So Tappa Pass is a really interesting wine, I guess, because the fruit for this wine goes back generations. So this is a part of the extended family, if you like, of Henschke through relatives. And one of our relatives have been supplying Gris, my grandfather, and then my father, and now me over the generations, the same family. This is planted on a really interesting soil because it's a red lime over limestone. So it's like a terra rossa overlooking the Barossa.
I love the expression of this wine. Like it's such a, for Henschke, it's such a unique expression. But this is a unique expression for you guys. It's such a different wine to the Mount Edelstone or Hill of Grace. It has this sort of, there's a chocolatey sort of, there's a richness and it's like thicker sort of tannins and a fleshiness, carries plenty of fruit. I really, it's a wonderful expression. And in the vintage of 17, it all seems to have just hung together perfectly.
Yes.
That's great. Thank you so much for that.
Lovely to catch up, Nick.
Yes.
All the best. Thanks for joining us in the tasting. Cheers.